Welcome back to the channel. My name's Adam Smith, and inside this GameFound preview series, we continue with gameplay for Bloodwork coming from iDemo Games. The campaign is landing in the very near future. If you want to find the campaign page and the time frame when it launches, you'll find that information in the pinned comment and video description. Now, before we go ahead with gameplay in this video, I do want to mention if you haven't checked out the prototype unboxing I put together or the how to set up video that shows how all of this got to the table, I recommend checking it out. I'll have a link in the top right hand corner so you can get caught up. And as of right now, we're going to dive into a couple corrections around the power for each of the four mercenaries. I'll talk about them quickly, and then we'll head right into the narrative for Giggarat, the mission, the very first mission of the campaign we're about to play in prototype form. Now, the correction I want to make is around what's shown right next to the armor, which ties to power. You'll see the type of power for the cleric, for example, is mana. It starts in the 2 position on the track, which we have set correctly from the how to set it video, and then +2 at the start of every turn for characters that use mana. Over here on the opposite side, we have the mage, same situation, using mana for her power, again, starting in the 2 position and gaining 2 at the beginning of her activation. One of the 2 characters that needs a correction from the how to set up video is the warrior. You can see right here his fury, which is his power, starts at 0. So we'll go ahead and update that on the track. Every single time he makes an attack and does damage with his main hand weapon, he'll gain 2 on the fury track. The final correction to make is on the archer. As you can see, the type of power is focus, and it starts at 1. So instead of 3, this should be at 1. It will gain +3 at the end of its activation. So you can see the timing of when this different power and these different types are actually done. They're unique across the different characters based on the type of power, whether it's mana, fury, or focus, for instance, in these cases. It's also worth mentioning when the archer is damaged during play, it loses 1 focus each time it's damaged. That'll do it for the corrections. Let's now head into the narrative and find out more about what's going on in this world as we dive into this mission known as Giggarat. We reached West Arch just before dusk, laying anchor a safe distance from its port and using rowboats the rest of the way. The town was in no condition to entertain guests. Its docks were a ruined mess of scorched driftwood and sunken merchant ships. Someone didn't want any new residents or was hell-bent on keeping the old ones from leaving. We hid our rowboats as best we could and prepared for reconnaissance of the port and beyond. We were hired by the son of the local blacksmith, a stout lad whose sturdy frame was no match for the affliction he picked up on his way to Tarnag. West Arch is in peril, was all he would mutter after we took his gold and the fever took him. The boy made no mention of the state of his home before he died, only that we were to find his father and prepare defenses for what they feared would come. What had already come by the looks of it. These were Marquise Lands, the dame of the Danemark, but she and her men were nowhere to be found, and West Arch's cries for aid had gone unanswered. Dead client or no, the code of the guild is quite clear. We accepted the coin, so we will do the work, lest the next contract paid be the one for our heads. We followed the smoke in the sky to a campfire in what was likely once the town square. A small group of goblins huddled around the flickering flames, laughing and enjoying a bit of meat, and by the sounds of it, more than a little bit of ale. There was no sign of the blacksmith or any townsfolk for that matter. We decided direct assault against the drunken gobs would work well enough. That's when we were spotted by the leader, who we had mistaken for a hanging corpse. He was a goblin on stilts, but unlike any stilts we had ever seen. His bow was already drawn as he stared us down, his face twitching while he shared with us a wicked grin. He had a touched look in his eyes, wide and unblinking, like a man on his deathbed desperately trying not to fall asleep. "Look what we've got here, boys," the mad goblin cackled. "Fresh meat for the fire." Our heroes have been spotted. It is now time to dive into gameplay and see whether we can take out this entire group of enemies. Now, it is worth mentioning the primary objective of this mission is to take down the leader, and for those that don't get killed at the end of the round, they will scatter off. But the key here is to remember this is a campaign game, so the more of the minions and grunts you actually take out, the more opportunity you have towards the end of the game to gain resources, and that allows you to open up crafting options and a whole bunch of other things. So yes, you can technically go straight for the main objective, but you might miss out on some other things that are points of interest. Like over here, for instance, there's the possibility to actually go over, dig up some interesting sites, and find some treasure. We'll talk about that because I'll be attempting to try and grab at least one of those. There's 3 on the map, actually, dig sites. We got 1 here, one's up there in the top right, and there's actually one hiding between the 2 buildings right here by the base of this tree. I've swung out the house so you can see it a little bit easier. There's also these interesting perches on top of the houses. So these houses are known at a level 3 in terms of climbing up to get on top of them. We have one spot here, and there's actually 3 spots on the side of that house in the distance. These are elevated positions, which you can make the decision on whether or not they should be part of your strategy in taking out the enemies, or whether you should stay at ground level and fight. It is worth mentioning that any flying creatures that you may have or may be going up against are typically at a level 2. Everybody else, of course, at a level 1, which is ground level. So I actually do have a flying creature character with me, and that's right here. And that creature is my mage. I have my cleric to the right. Way up top on the right-hand side, we have the warrior, and to the left, the archer. Now our heroes have these goblins flanked, which is definitely a benefit, but their commander's well protected, twitching and swaying on his makeshift stilts and hurling insults beyond the safety of his circle of bodyguards. Now among the ruined houses, there's cover enough from him and the other archer grunts that he has around him. Not all of them are archers, but 3 of them are, towards the north side more so. The other 3 up close to us in gray, red, and blue are going to be coming at us from a melee side of the equation. So if we are kind of hiding or using cover, yes, that's an advantage, but then we're not actually actively taking these enemies out. And there is an enrage mechanic with this leader that if he gets too mad, in other words, you take too long to take him down, then he's going to bump up in strength and become that much harder to deal with. Another thing to mention, of course, is that there's rubble to dig through, as I mentioned, in 3 different spots. If we get to one of these tokens, we just have to be adjacent to it, and we can, as a free action, roll a d10. On a 5+, we find 2 gold. If we fail the digs, the tokens go away, but if you fail 2 of the 3 digs, the third one is an automatic success so long as you're adjacent to it. So even if you do really poorly at digging and trying to find treasure, you can come out of the scenario with 1, but again, that means you're focusing on digging and trying to find gold and not on the main objective. So it's a wonderful balance of, do you want to try and take out the leader right away, go for the gold, do a little bit of both? How do you want to tackle this particular scenario and others in the future of the game? The final thing to mention about this particular mission is that the leader's holding a special item. It's the Dying Breath Elixir. It says when the leader's HP reaches 0, heal 7 and discard this card. So this is something we do not want to see happen. If we just go straight to killing this leader, it's going to potentially heal right back up. But we can stop this below. As you can see, we can kill the leader while he has 4 or less HP, and that guarantees that we get to take this item and we get to keep it. As you can see, when you flip it to the side, now we would own the item and we can place it on a character. When your HP reaches 0, choose to heal 7 and discard. This goes from being a leader's item to something the party gets to take advantage of. The leader's item card is up there in the leader dashboard now, and we're ready to begin our very first round of play, which starts off by drawing the very first Fate card. Now, as we have nobody in the bottom right-hand corner of the game board right now, I'll just place the Fate deck right there. We start off by drawing a card, and the moment you draw your very first Fate card, you're going to enrage the leader, upticking his counter by 1. We'll take a look at that in a second, but first, let's draw that first Fate card and see what it looks like. It's going to give us a breakdown as to who's going first in the round, who's going second, and then third, between the leader, the grunts, and the heroes. We don't know which one's which just yet, but now we have a better idea. So at the very top here, you'll see a watermarked area here, and that skull in the background lets us know the leader is going first, and then the heroes will be going, and then the final one here at the very bottom is the grunts. We've drawn our first Fate card. We're uptaking the enrage for the leader by 1, and that's all we have to do right now. We head back to the Fate card. So the first to activate is going to be the leader, and it states, if no allies are present, discard and draw again. Well, there actually is allies present for the leader, so no discarding, no drawing will be happening, which means everything just remains the same. Essentially, the leader is staying put, and no actions are taken with him, and we move on to the hero turn. The leader's too busy drinking ale and laughing at us to do anything, so we're now going to head on to our turn, and that means the heroes can go, and I'm controlling all 4 characters, so I can choose how they activate in any order I wish. Let's have the cleric activate first, so gaining 2 mana at the beginning of activation. The cleric is right here. On a hero's turn, there are 3 actions you can take. The first is an attack action, which uses your main weapon. The second is a skill action, which comes from the card right here. And a third is a move action. So out of the gates, I've got 4 mana to spend. I'm going to spend 2 to do a skill action called Zeal, and at any range, I can grant quickness to an ally. I'm going to give 3 quickness, which is what the quickness keyword provides, to my warrior. So we'll spend the 2 mana, dropping down to 2. My warrior now has a condition that'll certainly help out with a move action I plan to do in the future. Now, speaking of moving, the cleric has a move action to spend, which I'm going to use. It's at a speed of 6, and when you're moving in this game, you'll be using orthogonal movement, and also when counting range, you'll be doing so orthogonally. It is possible as the game goes on beyond mission number 1 that diagonal things can open up within the game experience, but in mission number 1, it's orthogonal only. I'm going to use 4 of my 6 movement to get right up close and personal next to this goblin wrecker. So I've taken a skill action, a move action. Now let's do the final action, which is going to be an attack action with the cleric. And the cleric's going to use a main weapon and also get the advantage of whatever offhand weapon is attached. At the moment, I got a crit chance +1 here that I get to add to the equation. But more important than that, we get to see the stats on this main weapon that we're using up against the goblin wrecker. So we got an attack rate of 3. So 3 dice. Accuracy is 7+ to get a hit. So anything 7 or above will be a hit. Crit chance 9+, but with a +1 crit chance, it's now going to be an 8+ for a crit chance. And then down below, we got the offense, or I should say to the side of the offense, which is how much each hit is going to land for damage. Let's go ahead and take 3d10s and roll them and see how we do. There's also an additional advantage you get off the dice, and I'll talk about it in a second depending on how things go. So we got ourselves a 7, a 7, and a 5, looking at an accuracy 7+. That's going to have no crits in here because nothing is 8 or above, but we do have 2 7s, which is going to hit the accuracy mark right on. So that is 2 hits right there and a 5. Now, just to make mention here, there's 2 hits, but if, say, for instance, I actually had this one be a 5 as well, which I, for some reason, cannot find the side right now, but there you go. If I got 1 hit and 2 5s, there is a rule within the game, even within the prototype right now, where you add up the total of all your misses, and if it equals 10, then you get an additional hit. So that kind of mitigates when you get a roll and you just do absolutely horrible. Now for my play here, I'll be using that rule, but it doesn't apply in this situation, as there's no way the 5 is going to become a 10 because I got 2 hits. But it is worth mentioning in the final version of the rules, you'll be able to go either way, and of course that's going to increase or decrease the difficulty of the rolls by default. The cleric swings the temple sword and gets 2 hits and 2 times 3, which is the offensive value right here. For each hit, 3 damage, so a total of 6 damage on the wrecker. After landing a hit or hits, we go to the blood deck and draw a card to find out exactly where that hit is landing. Now the card is multi-purpose, and it also is specific to the chapter you're playing. I'm playing chapter number 1, so you'll see chapter 1 standard up top. When we're the ones making the attack, we're going to take a look at the top section here in terms of where we're hitting. So we are hitting the enemy on the head, and if we happen to get a critical in our roll, then this would be the allotment of additional damage that would get added into the equation to add damage to the pool, but we didn't. And then down here, if the enemy's making the attack, this is where they look to determine where they hit the hero. So in our case, we hit this enemy square in the head. On the Goblin Wrecker card, at the very bottom, you'll see the defensive values for all the different positions we can potentially hit, and you'll see for the head, it's a defense of 1. 6 damage going right to the head, defended by 1, is going to be 5 damage getting through. The Goblin Wreckers have a health of 15, so dropping this red one we just hit down by 5. Let's activate the Warrior next, and the Warrior has a movement speed of 5, a little bit slower than the Cleric, and has the ability to use a skill action and an attack action. Now, something worth mentioning is this skill right up here says Unbridled Fury. If you choose this one, you can't do your regular attack action. But if you do, it is going to increase your fury, and you'll gain that condition as well. The plus with this is it allows you to forego your attack action to get yourself a boost in fury, because we start at 0, in order to then do a skill action using that fury. And of course, there's some powerful things down below here you can certainly use to your advantage. Now, something else about the Warrior's dashboard that you might not have noticed is in the offhand weapon slot, there was a shield, but underneath of it, there was a hammer as well. As a free action, the Warrior is able to swap these on its turn. So I can choose to take advantage of the offensive side of the equation with the hammer or the defensive side of the equation with the shield. Just be aware if you choose the free action to swap these, that could potentially have impacts depending on the order that these individuals are activating across the game board. I'm going to use that free action to switch over to my hammer, which is going to complement my other hammer, and that's going to provide me with a knockback 4, which is awesome because if I choose to target this character right here by standing here, I can knock back that character into the tree on a successful hit, and that will allow me to give it an additional 2 damage. Now, it took 6 movement to get my Warrior there, and normally I wouldn't have been able to make it because I only have 5 as a base. But again, I was given the boost from my other character for movement, quickness, allowing me up to 3 additional movement added to my movement action. So I'm there, no problem. We're now going to go ahead and make an attack action against this goblin. My warrior's got a battle hammer and the blacksmith's hammer. It comes in with 3 for dice, and its accuracy is 7+. Every hit is going to be 2 damage. But there is an actual option on this hammer that says the attack rate can be -1, in other words, take a die away and provide +3 overpower. Now, we haven't had to deal with overpower yet, but you'll notice that the warrior here has an overpower of 1. So what that means is once we actually calculate the damage per the hits, then we get to add overpower as additional damage by default. So I always have an extra 1 coming from my warrior, but this, by removing a die, adds an additional 3 in for damage. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We'll roll 2 d10s, hoping for big time damage. And on top of it, I have a combat reroll, which means I can reroll one of these dice if I don't like the results of them. So let's go ahead and make a roll here and see how things go. We got ourselves a 7 and a 3. So we have a hit and not a hit. Let's go ahead and make that combat reroll right now and see if we can get 2 hits off this. That would be awesome. Oh, just shy. So we got 2 off the hit, plus the 1 for overpower is 3, plus 3 for taking this optional thing over here, which is a total of 6 coming at that goblin. Let's pull a blood card and see where we're hitting that goblin. We're hitting it in the legs. The goblin sticker's leg defense is a 1. And also don't forget about that knockback, +4 knockback, moving it backwards, and when it does move backwards, if it hits any other enemies, it would not only injure itself and the enemies the same amount, but if it hits any houses or trees or anything, it's going to take 2 damage. So in this case, it definitely hits up against the tree for 2 additional, so 7 damage getting through. The warrior's doing some decent work here with 10 health on the red goblin sticker. We're dropping it down to just 3 remaining. And as we put damage onto an enemy with our main weapon, we are going to be upticking our fury by 2, which is going to certainly help us use a skill action in the future. Now, I still have 1 skill action left to use right now if I wish, but with 2, it's not enough to do anything. Even if I want to do the top one, which is technically 0 in terms of what it costs here, you have to forego your attack action. I've already used it, so I can't do this. Let's activate the Ranger next. Very excited to potentially take out that red goblin sticker. We already dropped down to 3 health. That's going to be my focus. Now the Ranger is using an elven bow, which has a range of 4. So with 6 movement and 4 range, the Ranger could potentially start heading over to this dig site over here on the side to try and find some treasure while also trying to attack from distance. I think this position works quite nicely. So from here, we definitely have line of sight to the red goblin sticker. Essentially, you take a point on the square and you're going to draw 2 lines. And as long as you can touch 2 corners of that individual without going through terrain or other characters, then you have absolute line of sight. I'm within the range for my bow. We're going to go ahead and do an attack action. But before we do, let's check out the skill actions to see if there's something we can pull off. Now, as of right now, I've got 1 focus, but I'm going to get 3 at the end of my turn, which will get me up to 4 to use these in the future, but not right now. So using the elven bow, it'll be 3 for the attack rate. So we have 3 d10s coming into the equation. The accuracy is 7+, and any hits will be 3 damage. Let's see how we do. We have no rerolls on this one whatsoever. No combat rerolls like the warrior did. A very solid attack, almost too good for this character I'm attacking at the moment. We got ourselves a hit with this one and a hit with this one. There's no critical chance on this whatsoever. That rolled over. It was a 7. This was a miss. So an 8 and 7 is going to provide 6. And the hit's going to be directly to the body. The body is the goblin sticker's best defensive area with 2, so knocking 2 off of 6, 4 gets through, but it's still enough with only 3 health. That red goblin sticker is gone. The archer does the job, taking out the red goblin sticker, which is behind the tree, which has been killed off. At the end of the archer's turn, the archer with focus is going to gain 3 on the track, jumping up to 4. Now let's talk about achievements, and this actually affects not only what the archer did, but also what the warrior did earlier. Achievements, as you saw during the How to Set Up video, are tracked throughout the game. So when you accomplish certain feats, you're going to come back here and you're going to actually use the trackers to uptick things. So for instance, this one says hit 3+ enemies with a single attack. That hasn't happened yet. Heal 1 other ally. Hasn't happened yet. This one says slam an enemy, and we definitely slammed an enemy with the warrior. So we're going to go ahead and uptick that one by 1, and you'll see how many times you need to do it to get the achievement right here, which is a total of 6 in this case, if I'm reading that correctly. And then the one up top is a death blow expert, and it says perform the last hit on an enemy, and the archer certainly did that, so we'll jump that up by 1 as well. Now, for even more clarity on the achievements, the 4 achievements that we talked about moments ago, they're each class specific to the different heroes. So for instance, the Death Blow Expert is tied to the Archer, which is why there is a bow in the top right-hand corner of the card, whereas the actual one that has to do with knockback, essentially slamming an enemy, is of course for the Warrior, and then the other 2 are below for healing an ally, as well as dealing magical damage. So we got 2 achievements in the last 2 turns, pretty solid. We also gain, or I should say, the Archer is going to be gaining a Goblin Head token. I'll be giving this token to the Archer. It's also going to uptick the Goblin Head contract by 1, and if we ever dig up any of the sites, we're going to be able to uptick that other contract for Lost Ledgers up there. So I'll place that Goblin Head token in this slot on the dashboard. Last but not least, we have the Mage, and mana is gained at the very beginning of the activation. She has 2 right now. She's gaining an additional 2, which is the +2, so she's going to 4 as she starts her turn. Now, similar to what you saw with the Overpower, which is the extra damage with the Warrior, well, when you're a mage, you have Spell Overpower, so that adds an additional damage into the fray when you're making attacks. Also, she has a Ring of Fire here with 3 dice. Accuracy's pretty solid and gets 3 for each of the hits she lands. She has the ability to eventually get up to a Fireball, which is pretty insane because it has a huge area of effect, which would actually be very beneficial for the grouping of enemies as they are right now, but they likely will not stay that way as the grunts are going to go after she is done and things will change up. She currently has 4, so she could pull off a blink, allowing her to teleport 8, so she can move across the map really fast. She's at a level 2 because she's considered flying, so that allows her to basically get past people quite easily, and she has this Bolt of Lightning attack as well, so she's got lots going on. She has a speed of 6. I'm going to use 5 of it to get as close as I can to be within range for my Ring of Fire to make an attack against that red Goblin Wrecker. Actually, I need to use all 6 of her movement in order to get in range, because at this point now she can draw from a corner of her space to 2 corners on the other target's space to make that range attack. I'm also kind of moving her off to the right on purpose to eventually maybe be able to get over to here. Remember, she has a teleport ability, but again, she also has that area of effect Fireball. So I'm kind of juggling which one I want to go after, but the Fireball seems extremely cool, and that would be really nice to lay down maybe next turn. We're within range. Let's make that Ring of Fire attack. 3 d10s going into it, accuracy 6+, and one mention I made before around the person not having a crit chance token. It doesn't necessarily mean you can't get crits. You can always get crits on a 10, 100%, but the crit chance can be lowered for some characters based on their loadout. In this case, a 10 would still give a crit even though I have no token sitting in the crit chance area. Just to be clear on that, across all characters, they always have the chance to crit on 10s, as you'd expect. And we got ourselves a 9, a 7, and a 3, but no crits this time. That's still a very solid spell attack from the Ring of Fire, so that's going to be 3 for each of the 2 hits, which is a total of 6, plus the 1 for Spell Overpower, which is 7. Let's flip the blood card and see where it hit on this red Goblin Wrecker. It is going to be the arms. With 2 armor on the hand slot for the Goblin Wrecker, 5 damage gets through. We are continuing to knock the health down of this red one here, now from 10 down to 5. Hero activations are now done. We're moving on to the grunts. As we activate our grunts, we take a look to see the keyword grunt on both cards, and it works in order. Tanks first, then attackers, and then archers. When you're activating the grunts, it's as easy as taking a look across the grunts on the dashboard as you set them up from left to right. That is the activation order, so we're starting with a Goblin Wrecker in red. And that's actually the unit that's standing right in front of our cleric. The card's going to provide more details around the range of the attack, which you can see in the top left is 1. Then below that, the accuracy needs to be a 5+ on the die. Gets 2 dice based on the top right-hand icon. Underneath that, for every hit that it lands on its accuracy or above, it is going to get 4 damage. Pretty brutal. If it gets tactics when it pulls the card, and we'll talk about that later, it can also throw knockdown into the equation as well. Now, you're always referencing your fate card to find out what exactly the grunts are going to follow for their AI. So it says attack the closest enemies. If the target is in the leader's range, the attack has exploit and precision. The Goblin Leader has 5 range. I'm definitely inside of it, unfortunately, at 4, so this individual will get the boost of those abilities, Exploit and Precision. Precision doesn't matter because it has to do with drawing line of sight. This thing's attacking right beside me, and it's melee, and then on top of it, the Exploit does matter. It basically means if you have armor in, say, a body slot, and this thing hits you in the body, that armor means nothing. It goes straight through, but your protection value can still help you. I do have a protection of 1, so even though if my body armor doesn't help me, I still have that protection level. Let's see what happens with the 2 d10s. We got ourselves a 9 and a 4 coming at us. The Goblin Wrecker's accuracy is a 5+, so only one actually makes it pass for a damage of 4. And in a cruel twist of fate, it actually is hitting me in the body. So normally the 4 damage would actually get negated by 1 from the body slot to 3, and then the protection would take another one away. It'd be 2 damage getting through for 2 health lost. But because of the exploit, this does not matter whatsoever. It's only 1 coming off, so 3 damage gets through. From 20 to 17 isn't so bad, and that's going to do it for that enemy's attack. Let's move on to the next one, a Blue Wrecker. As we know, these individuals are going after the closest enemy, so it's going to be my Cleric yet again, this one using 2 of its 6 movement to get right beside me. And because my Cleric is yet again inside the range of the Goblin Leader, the same effects apply that you saw before, so here's hoping we see 4 and below on these dice. You gotta love that. 2 complete misses, nothing getting through. Also worth mentioning, there's no addition of misses for the enemy side of the equation to generate a hit like there is with the heroes. Last but not least, we have the gray one right here, and absolutely going to come right here to be beside the Cleric. And the exact same situation, those abilities apply yet again. We're rolling 2 d10s and hoping for very low values. A 0, which is not good, that's a critical, and a 7. But the good news is enemies don't use criticals, so they don't get any advantage from that. It's just considered a hit, but it's going to be 2 hits in this case. That's not good. And unfortunately, this one's in the legs, and you'll also see it inflicts a condition on me, slow. So the 2 hits are 4 damage apiece at 8, but if I take a look at my slots here for my legs, I have absolutely nothing for protection. Wouldn't matter anyway because exploit would go straight through it, but my protection value of 1 knocks 1 off, so 7 damage getting through. That's a pretty substantial hit. Being at 17, that'll drop me down to 10. The Goblin Wreckers are now done. We're moving on to the Goblin Stickers. We took out the red one, so we're on to the blue one. And here's a Goblin Sticker card yet again, but as you can see in the top left-hand corner and right-hand corner is important information. We've got a range of 3 for them, 6+ on accuracy, 3 dice going to the equation, and they hit for 4 damage for each hit that they do against us. Now in this case, when an individual is equal distance to being able to attack 2 different heroes, we get to choose which one it attacks, which is nice. So I'm going to absolutely have it go after the warrior. Now the range is 3, and it's currently 4 away, so it needs to get a little bit closer, so it'll go ahead and move up 1 position. The Fate card is still throwing its abilities at us, which is unfortunate. Not going to matter so much for the precision piece, but the exploit is definitely going to be kind of a pain. It's rough because my body armor for my warrior is actually valued at 2, which means nothing with this attack, but I do have 2 for protection. So again, not only do I have more health with the warrior, but my protection value is higher as well, so I can sustain more with this warrior, so it's a good target. Let's go ahead and make the roll. I'm not looking forward to this. Let's see how this goes. We can grab 3 black dice and see where they land. Again, it's 6+ accuracy for this. That is an absolutely devastating hit. 3 hits on my warrior, which is absolutely insane, for a total of 12 damage, and it's going right to my arms. So 12 damage coming to the arms. Wouldn't matter if I had something there anyway, because the abilities are going to prevent me from using it, but my protection does apply, so 12 drop down to 10. It's a massive hit overall, dropping me from 35 to 25. That was pretty brutal. We got a gray archer targeting the warrior, and we're going to go ahead and roll 3 d10s to see what is coming my way. A 6, a 5, and a 2. The 6 is the only one that gets through, so this time, thankfully, just 4 minus my 2 protection is only 2 damage. All right, I can handle that. That's dropping me from 25 down to 23. It's also worth mentioning all of my heroes have some travel rations, allowing them to heal for 5 to discard. So during their turn, they can go ahead and use it. But right now, that is going to wrap up all of the grunts going and wrap up the Fate card. So just like that, you've seen an entire Fate card resolve, which ends round number 1. Now, before you go ahead and draw the next Fate card to start your next round of play, you're going to go ahead and think strategically about what you want to pull off with your party, but also you have this thing called Gambit on your dashboard. Each of the characters have different levels of Gambit. The warrior has 2, which you can see right here, and the other characters have 3 apiece. Now, what you do with Gambit is once per mission, you can choose before you reveal the next Fate card. After you've just finished a Fate card, you can use that Gambit for some movement, and you'd have to use up to or all of it in order to use it in general. But once it's used, it is gone, and you do not get to use it again during that same mission. But it can be really advantageous to put you into a scenario scenario where maybe you're looking at a skill that can do some serious damage or get you to a specific token you're trying to get to, or more importantly, maybe even just a very advantageous position you're trying to basically obtain or stand in before anything else happens in the game state, because you never know, that spot you really want to go to might have an enemy in it before you get a chance to activate. So that gambit gives you kind of a leg up, but again, a one-time leg up. It's a good time to check your green tokens. If anyone's have to come off the board at this point, you do. Now this one here, quickness, technically comes off the second that you actually use it, so it would have been gone the moment my warrior moved. But in this case, we'll remove it now, and it will be all clear going into round number 2. Let's go ahead and reveal round number 2's fake card. Now here's a fake card. The grunts will go first, then the heroes, then the leader. There's an interrupt here for the heroes on their activation. If we happen to put 10 damage from a single attack on the leader, then this won't happen, and instead the leader will just go after the closest mercenary. So the Goblin Wreckers will be starting things off, and for the grunts, they're going to be attacking the closest enemies and inflicting immobilize, starting with the red one here, the Goblin Wrecker. All right, so the Cleric is taking the very first hit. 2 d10s going into this roll. Let's see how things go. A 10, which is a critical, but again, criticals for enemies don't do anything besides just a regular hit, and this one certainly misses. Now for the Wreckers, again, their accuracy that they're looking for is a 5+. So they got the 1 hit, and that is for 4 damage. And they'll be focused on the arms of my Cleric. And with no defense there, but I do have protection, that's going to be reduced down to 3, so we're taking a 3 hit here, and we got 10 health, so we're down to a total of 7. My Cleric is now also immobilized, so I got a token there to remind me of that. So basically the next time it activates, it won't be able to make a move action, but at the end of its activation, that token will go away. At this point, we move on to the blue one right here. This Wrecker is going to attack, again going after the Cleric. Hopefully we don't see anything that is 5 or above. We're looking for 4 or less. We got a 3 to 6, so it's just 1 hit getting through. Let's see where on the body it's going to be. It's going to be a tactics this time, so we'll go specifically to the card here where it says knockdown. Before I talk about knockdowns, let's rewind the tape and actually talk about a resistance value I have here of 8+, which is a resistance against debuffs like this immobilize, which gives my Cleric the ability to roll on a d10, and if I get an 8 or above, I can actually avoid that token being placed. So we're going to go ahead and roll a die and hope to see an 8, 9, or 10, and we didn't, so that token will stay where it is. Let's do the knockdown. Now a knockdown is also a debuff condition, and so we have the ability to resist it here with an 8+ roll of a d10. So hopefully that can happen and we don't get knocked over. We got ourselves a 3, so we are definitely getting knocked down. There's another gray Goblin Wrecker that needs to attack, and right now it could attack the Cleric again, but that would be bad because when you're knocked down and someone attacks you again, you get 2 true damage going through, which I do not want. So because I have the choice, because these are both nearest to this one, we'll go ahead and have the Mage take this hit. All right, here's hoping this isn't too bad. Let's go ahead with the roll, and we got a 1 and a 6, so only 1 hit getting through. And wouldn't you know it, ended up being a tactics, so it's going to be a knockdown. The resistance value on the Mage dashboard is a 9+, so we're rolling for both of these that we're trying to resist. So we'll go ahead and try and resist the immobilization first, and we did not. And the knockdown, are we going to be able to resist it? We do not. Now, up closer to the tree, we have the Goblin Stickers, and this one can target either of these equally in terms of distance, and so we're going to point things at the Warrior. Archers have the accuracy of 6+, and they're going to be rolling 3 dice, so here we go. Hopefully this is not too bad for me. The Warrior does have some defense, depending on where things land. A 1, a 4, and a 3, which is a complete miss across the board. You gotta love that. We certainly needed it. Now we're gonna go over to the gray archer or goblin sticker there in the corner. It's gonna make an attack again on the warrior closest to it. And let's see what happens. A 9, an 8, and a 3. Now before we go ahead and resolve that, I do want to go ahead and put the immobilized token on for the first attack, which missed, but the immobilized condition is separate. It says, and inflict immobilize, meaning that it's part of the equation, but I can try and resist this. My resistance for the warrior is an 8+, so here's hoping I can stop that from happening, and I do not. Now the Gray Goblin sticker that just rolled and attacked for 8, 9, and 3 got 2 hits, and we're going to find out where those hits are landing. They're landing on the body, which is actually good news for this warrior. The first good news I've heard, because this would be 8 damage right here, but this warrior has 2 in the body and 2 protection, so 4 of it is removed, so only 4 getting through. Just to show you, there's a 2 for the armor in the body and 2 for protection. So we are going to go ahead and just drop things by 4. We're currently at 23, so we're dropping ourselves to 19. So just to summarize things, we got ourselves 2 individuals that are immobilized and both knocked down. We have the warrior who's immobilized, and the archer came out scot-free. Now we move to the hero's turn. Let's go ahead and activate the warrior first. Now the warrior here has a skill, and I can forego my attack action in order to do this Unbridled Fury, gaining 3 Fury, and we also gain an ability that I'd like to talk about. So let's go ahead and do that. That's going to jump us up from 2 to 5. I'm doing this because primarily I'm stuck in place, and I might as well try and build myself up for something pretty good. At this point, I'm not going to do any more with my warrior, but I will actually consume my travel rations, being able to heal for 5, so that'll bring me from 19 back to 24. And we'll kind of keep that fury building up, and I'll be using it in the future when I can certainly move into positions that make the most sense for what I want to accomplish. As soon as the warrior's turn ends, it's going to lose its immobilization token, which is good because it can move in the future. Now let's go ahead and activate the mage right here. Now we're going to have to spend our attack action just to stand back up. Unfortunately, we're still immobilized, but maybe there's a skill action we can pull off. We also don't want to forget to gain our 2 mana at the start of the activation, so we have 6 at this point. Now she has travel rations, but doesn't need it because she's currently at full health at 15. It's worth mentioning she could take a skill action using a fireball or a bolt of lightning, but the fireball uses the 3 range from her ring of fire, and everybody's pretty close by. I don't really want to use that because it actually affects not only enemies, but also allies as well. So can't just be shooting fireballs everywhere and not expecting to get some kind of friendly fire damage going on. I might need to get into a better situation for that one, but the bolt of lightning is pretty interesting. For 3, I can make an attack with range +2. Now, I was originally eyeing going after the Goblin Leader to try to get that 10 damage single attack on it, but the unfortunate thing is I'm just 1 short on range. I have 3 from the Ring of Fire, 2 from the Lightning. That's 5. I'm just 1 shy, but I could still target somebody here. Now let's go ahead and target the weakest of the 3. This one here is 5 HP. The other 2 are full health at 15. She is a mage using that Bolt of Lightning attack. She's considered to be at a level 2, so she's hovering above the ground, above these enemies, meaning that she can clearly draw line of sight to any of them nearby. Even though she's immobilized, my understanding is she's still stuck in the spot, but she's at a level 2 still versus everybody at level 1. So she'll make that attack right now with 3 D10s, and hopefully we see some hits. 6+ is what we're looking for. This attack worked out awesome, so we got ourselves 3 damage off this one, and this one's 3 damage, but it is a critical. Now, criticals are awesome because when you do land one, you're going to pull a card for every single critical that you get, which means you're going to have more chances to add more damage into the equation. So the 8 is already applying 3 from her static offensive 3 for each hit. Then she's going to get an additional 3 for the critical here. And what's even better, instead of targeting the head spot of the enemy, she instead takes the spot on the enemy that has the weakest defense. So that's going to be the head slot with 1 defense. So we got 3 damage from the regular hit, 3 damage off the critical, and we hit the weakest spot, which is only 1 armor. So 6 going up against 1 armor is 5, and 5 is exactly what we needed to take this Goblin Wrecker out. The contract is now at 2 for the Goblin Heads as we took out 1 with the Archer and now 1 with the Mage. We've also gained a token here for a head, which is going to go on the Mage's dashboard. And just a quick correction, Spell Overpower is going to provide additional damage from our dashboard, so it actually would have been 6 damage going through, but the thing is dead regardless. With the Mage turn done, the immobilization token also comes off. Let's activate the Cleric next, and the Cleric is going to gain 2 mana, jumping up to 4. The Cleric will use this attack action in order to get back up from being knocked down. Now the kicker here is taking a look at the skill actions, because that's all I have left after standing back up. I have a twirling attack, but this only adds to how many enemies I can hit when making an attack, so that's not going to help me right now. And then Death and Life here says attack with range +2, on damage, range 8, you can heal an ally for 3 or dispel 1. I actually think Death and Life makes a lot of sense right now, so let's go ahead and use that for 3. The Cleric has 3 D10s. We'll be certainly using those to roll on every single hit. It's a 3 in terms of damage. Crit chance is possible here at 9+, so a little bit better than most. And accuracy is 7+. Now, who do we want to target? That is the question. So as of right now, from where I am, the range of my weapon is 1, and I get a +2. It's still just 1 shy of hitting the leader, so I couldn't even target that. So I can just go after the individuals that are on either side of me, and both of them are the same health. So let's go ahead and try and hit the one that at least, I guess, is close enough to both of us, although technically the Mage can really deal from anywhere for the most part. But let's go ahead and hit the blue one. So let's go ahead and make the roll and see how things go. Now again, the crit chance is 9+, but I have that offhand weapon that it makes it even better, so it's 8+. So here's hoping I can get a crit off an 8+. That would be awesome. Oh my gosh, we got a 9 and a 9 and a 2. That is awesome. So the 2 means nothing. Do I have a reroll on this? No, I do not. But that is 2 crits right there. And I have to make a correction here. On the last critical that I got, I would have actually gotten more damage than I thought. I didn't need it because I wiped the individual out anyway, but I certainly want to make sure I get it right here in this example. So what ends up happening with these 2 criticals, you draw these 2 cards, and beyond the amount you get from the offense off the dashboard of the enemy, which in this case is 3 for each of them for a total of 6, you're also getting 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I have 11 damage here. And then of course, anything over the top of this, if I happen to have an overpower, for instance, or a spell overpower, that would boost it even further. And again, that damage is going up against the Goblin Wrecker, and the weakest position, because I got criticals, is going to be the head position at 1 defense. So that's a total of 10 damage going through on a 15 damage character. Could you imagine if that 10 damage had hit the leader? If I had had the range, it would have been awesome. Now the Cleric's got a pretty cool ability here that says a free action, range X, heal an ally for 2. So I can choose somebody nearby and heal. Now I'm going to assume that I can heal myself. I know it does say ally, but I would imagine that the Cleric could heal themselves as well. We could certainly use it. So we're going to jump ourselves from 7 up to 9. And of course, the other individual beside me doesn't need any healing. The mage is at full health. And speaking of health, we got travel rations with the Cleric as well. We might as well go ahead and eat these up for 5 additional health. So we'll bump ourselves from where we're at 9 to 14. All right, so the Cleric is doing a little bit better. And at this point, we're going to stop our turn right here, which means the immobilization token comes off the miniature. As I activate the archer, nothing is gained for power right away. Again, it gets focused at the end of its turn. It currently has the freedom to finally move, unlike everybody else in this round. I would love to come down here, take a shot at this one, and try and take it out to thin things out even more. With a speed of 6 and a range of 4, we should be able to use our movement action in order to get close enough to take a shot. The archer only needs to use 5 movement to get within 4 of this individual. Only has 5 HP remaining. Now I could choose to have the archer move 1 space less to be within range of the leader to try to go after this 10 damage attack, which is tempting, but it's not worth it with a giant heal that's here. If I don't pull it off and I do put damage on it, that is not enough to actually interrupt it. And on top of it, the knockback is really not going to do much because it's for adjacent units, which there are none currently. It's mainly just going to run away and heal. So we can actually just kind of ignore what this boss is doing, their leader's doing right now, and focus on still going after the grunts. Let's make the shot and see if we can take this thing out. It has 5 HP left. We're using a regular attack action to pull this off. So it's going to be 3 dice, 7+ for accuracy, and every hit is 3 damage. We got ourselves a 6, a 9, and a 7. That's a crazy attack. This thing is going to die for sure based on this. Let's go ahead and pull the card. We got ourselves a body hit and a knockback on top of it. So 3 hits is 9 damage and -2 for the body armor, which is on the enemy. Bring it down to 7, which is more than the 5 HP to kill it off. The knockback would have it slam up against the Cleric and take 2 more true damage. This thing is dead for sure. The miniature's been removed. That's another Goblin Head token, and the Archer did this kill, so the last hit to kill on the Archer means that's bumping up the achievement for the Archer. So way up top, we got another death blow from the Archer, bringing it up to 2, and we need 4 in order to complete that achievement, and another Goblin Head brings us up to 3. I still got a skill action to spend. I could use a piercing arrow attack or the bullseye. Both are 4, and I've got that much focus. Also worth mentioning, on the card here it says range +1 with bows and crossbows. So beyond the range of the bow itself at 4, I actually have a range of 5, even further. But if I use the bullseye, it's going to take away 2 range, making it only 3, and that is unfortunately just 1 shy of the blue goblin sticker that I was eyeing taking a shot at. So the bullseye is not going to work well for me right now. The piercing arrow's not either, because I didn't put myself in a good position. And that's a mistake on my part, not looking at the skills and getting myself set where I should be. So unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be anything I really could do, and I can't pull off suppress because I don't have the focus for it. So we might have to hold back and kind of keep more focus for later, which is okay. Now, instead of taking an attack action on a turn, you can instead take 2 skill actions. So if you do accumulate a bunch of focus, in the case of the Archer here, you could do back-to-back skill actions and pull off some pretty powerful attacks. So we'll end things off for the Archer's turn right there, and that's going to jump us up by 3 focus. We now head back to the fate card. At the very bottom is the next activation, which is the leader. And it's at this point I like to go ahead to the enrage track and tick it up by 1, because how the enrage works, as I mentioned before, is every time you pull a fate card, you'll pump that up by 1. Once it hits 6 in this case, this leader is going to become enraged, and in round number 7 that effect is going to occur. So essentially you're tracking it per each of the 6 first fate cards. So as soon as I see the leader's icon here when I'm resolving it, that's when I'm ticking it up, just as a nice reminder for myself while I'm just teaching you through the game. Now, as I mentioned before, this effect is actually perfect timing for right now because nothing's going to happen. Knockback +3 to all adjacent units. There is nobody adjacent to this leader right now, and disengage only matters once it's made an attack against somebody adjacent to it or has knocked back somebody that was next to it. So there's nobody to disengage with, and it's going to disengage at a speed of 2. Again, that would just mean it's basically running away, and then it's healing 10 if it has any damage, which it doesn't, so none of this is occurring. So now what we need to decide is whether we want to use any gambit going into the next fate card pull for round number 3. Do we want to position anybody in a different spot to be better set for something powerful, perhaps? Now, as I talked about moments ago with the archer, got lots of focus stored up, so potentially could take 2 skill actions, so we might want to use gambit to get myself in position so I don't have to do much movement for my attacks. So I'm going to have my archer move closer to the goblin leader and also closer to the goblin sticker in blue there, so I can potentially attack in both different ways. I may not use 2 skill actions because you have to use 2 separate skill actions. You can't do the same one twice. Of course, you might have an ability or something in the future that allows you to do that, but the general rules say you can't. Now, gambit here is going to disappear because once you use it, it's gone, so I'm just taking the token out to remind myself of that. At this point, I think I'm pretty happy with how things are set up. Immobilization hopefully won't be an issue going into the next fate card, so let's go ahead and draw it. Here's the next fate card. It is a goblin sticker. It says flee, scatter, and gain expose. Let's talk about that in a second. This is going to be the grunts, then the heroes, and then finally the leader. A pretty good run for this round. For round 3, I've also upticked the enrage, so that's now at 3. And now what's going to happen is all the grunts are going to scatter and gain expose. That means each of them are going to move 3 spaces away from the leader first. It's actually thematically very cool timing-wise. We took out 3 goblins, and now they're starting to get a little bit scared. So the other 3 are moving further away from the leader 3 spaces. And they're also taking the condition exposed because thematically they're running away and their backs are exposed to us. So this fate card just presented a huge opportunity for me that I was definitely not expecting. It's always a good idea strategically to look at the fate card and see what the goblin leader is going to do, because based on what happened with the grunts running away and becoming exposed and us trying to chase after them and take them down, the leader is going to use his opportunity to do an arrow rain and attack a random enemy within the area of effect. So we got to keep that in mind. Let's start things off with the cleric, who is right here, and the cleric's going to do some movement to get closer to this enemy. The cleric's making an attack action to an exposed goblin, so everything will be true damage as I mentioned. 3 d10s going in the equation. The accuracy we're looking for is 7+. Crit chance on an 8+, which is great because of our offhand Temple Blade. Let's go ahead and roll and see how we do. Hopefully we see some crits in here. Come on. Oh, we got one right there, a crit, and this is going to be another hit. This was a miss, but that's pretty solid overall. So we got 3 damage coming off that. 3 off that is 6. 3 from this is 9. And that 9 is true damage going straight through the 15 health it has, so only 6 health remains. Not bad at all. Let's see if the cleric has a skill action we can pull off to maybe finish this individual off. At the start of the cleric's activation, we got an extra 2 on the mana, which gives us 3 total to work with for the skill actions. And we've got Twirling Attack and Death and Life. Like, it makes sense to go after death and life. We can do an attack, and then we can potentially heal ourselves for 3, which would be beneficial. So we'll drop all of our mana down to 0. Let's make another attack, hoping for big time true damage, and we'll also end up healing up. So let's go ahead and roll these 3d10s for this skill action. And we got ourselves an 8. Oh my gosh, 2 crits. This thing is definitely going down. So we're pulling 2 cards here. 1 for the 8. That's 2 additional damage right there. 2 additional here. So it's going to be 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That thing is definitely dead. That's another goblin head, which means the contract is upticking by another one to a total of 4. And the token is going to go on the cleric. Now, the second part of Death and Life does say, on damage, you can range 8 heal an ally for 3 or dispel 1. I want to heal for 3 the character that actually just did the attacking and is doing the healing, which is the cleric. So I'm going to take it that I can still heal myself. If I'm incorrect in this, I'll put something in the pinned comment and video description when I find out and clarify, but it's also worth mentioning there's an achievement for the cleric specific to healing another or other ally. So I think that the achievement is specifying that it has to be an other ally, but I do believe that a cleric would be able to heal themselves as well. So I need some clarification on whether that's okay, but I'm going to play it that way as I don't think there's any gameplay implications to this point. So that's going to jump our cleric back up to 17 health from 14. You can see that health over here to the far left. That's going to do it for the cleric's turn. We're going to end it right there. Now, based on the grunts running away and having these exposed tokens, I think this is a good opportunity to try and run over to one of those treasure sites and dig to see if we can find some treasure at the site. And we do have quite a bit going here for the mage, so she's going to go ahead and activate next. She uses mana as well. She's currently got 3. She's going to jump up to 5 at the start of her activation. Now for 3 mana, she has a skill action called Blink Teleport 8. Very powerful. She can then just transition through whatever 8 spaces. She's going to teleport right next to that site. It's worth mentioning whenever goblins exist, you're going to see these treasure sites around that you can try to rummage through and dig up to find gold. Let's go ahead and roll a d10 right now. We can do this as a free action next to or adjacent to one of these tokens to see if we find 2 gold. We need to get a 5+ on the die roll to get something. Let's see how it goes. We got ourselves a 6, so we did find 2 gold. And gold, as you'd expect in a campaign, is a very valuable resource to have. The gold is shared by the party and placed in the inventory. Now I still have a move with this mage, so I might as well go ahead and use it. For 6 speed, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and actually be just 1 space away from the next dig site. We're going to end off the mage's turn right there and transition to the next activation of the heroes. So this one, there's only 2 goblins left. We have 2 goblin stickers, the blue one and the gray one, both of which have full health at 10. So we're going to try and take down both of these if we can. We've got the warrior up there that can go after the gray one, and the archer should be able to deal with the blue one. I'm going to have the archer use 3 of its 6 movement for a move action. Then we're going to go ahead and use what's known as Piercing Arrow. This one says attack a unit in a straight line with AoE. So essentially just allows for an attack using 4 focus. I have 7, so I'm dropping myself down to 3. So using a skill action to take a long shot. Now, if there had been enemies in the row here, the row occurs 4 spaces long in front of the ranger or the archer. I could have hit every single individual that it goes through, which is pretty cool if you can line something up like that. But in this case, I can't. I just want to focus on getting a skill action attack in and then a regular attack action in to see if the 2 combined can take this thing out. So we're going in with an attack rate of 3, accuracy 7+, crit chance we need a 10, and the offense for each of the hits we get will be a 3. Let's go ahead and make the roll and see how we do. Apparently we do very, very poorly on that attack, and we absolutely miss completely while this thing is running away in the opposite direction. But no fear, we're going to take a regular attack action now and do the exact same thing, except we're no longer going to be attacking all the spaces in a row. We're just making a straight elven bow shot at the back of this thing. Again, everything is true damage at this point because this individual is exposed. Come on, we need some hits here. 7+. We got an 8, we got a 7, and a 6, a much better roll. So that is 2 decent hits here, and unfortunately no crits though. So that's 6 damage going straight at the 10, dropping it to 4. And unfortunately, it's not enough to take out that goblin. We got a warrior left to activate, though. Before we do, we'll bump up our focus by 3, and that's going to jump us up to 6. We haven't needed to use the rations for this character yet, as it has not been hit. Now, the warrior is way up there behind the tree. We're going to go for that north goblin sticker. I only had to use a little bit of movement to get there. I'm off to the left of it on purpose because in my offhand right now I have the blacksmith's hammer that has a knockback of 4. So if I can get a hit on this thing, I'll be knocking it back and it's going to hit up against that rubble there of the building, giving it 2 additional true damage, which will go straight through. So here's hoping on this attack right now, a regular attack, it's going to be a good one. Now when I use my battle hammer, I can choose to negate 1 of my 3 dice in order to get an overpower of 3 on top of the 1 overpower I already have. So that means 4 damage going in and rolling 2 d10s. Let's see how these go. We got ourselves a 7, and it looks like the other one is a 1. The great news is I have a combat reroll with the warrior only. I'm going to use it on the 1 for sure to try and get something better. We got ourselves a 4 that was still a miss. Now the 7 is going to be a hit, so that's going to be 2 damage. The overpower at 3 plus the 1 is 4, so that's 6 right there. And then the knockback is going to provide an additional 2, which is a total of 8 damage for this goblin sticker. So the gray one here will just have 2 health remaining after that massive hit. And that hit is going to provide 2 fury for my warrior, jumping up to 7. Now, overall, I have to say that was a pretty solid run for the heroes. We almost cleared out everybody, but we got them down to weak states, which is fantastic. I think that's where we're going to stop things right here for the heroes. So now the arrow rain is going to happen, attacking a random enemy within the AoE, and I can tell you right now, based on who's inside the AoE, it is definitely going to be the archer. So the goblin leader shoots a ton of arrows up into the sky, and these ones are coming right back down towards the archer. The leader has an accuracy of 5, it's rolling 4 dice, and it has 4 for every hit it gets. This could be a rough go for the archer. Let's see how this pans out. So it ends up landing 1, 2, 3 hits, and where exactly is it going to be hitting with the total of 12 damage? It is going to be hitting the arms, and it's going to inflict disarm on top of it. 12 damage coming at the archer is pretty insane. 1 for protection, dropping it to 11. So we'll lose 1 here from 25 to 24, and then we're dropping down to 14. And that, my friends, wraps up round number 3, and it is worth mentioning the warrior at the very back that did a knockback, slamming the goblin into the ruins for 2 true damage. I should have also upticked the achievement over here for slamming an enemy tied to that warrior. He's done it now twice, so I've made sure to move that to the 2nd position. That's going to do it for round number 3, and at this point, we're going to wrap up part number 1. Stay tuned to the channel as we dive into round number 4 together in the finale video to come. We'll see whether I can take down the Giggarat in the center here, who I have not even hit with an attack yet, as I've been focusing on all the other goblins and the treasure buried around, trying to pick that up. We'll come back and see if I can pull out a victory. So far, things are going decently well, but we'll see what the Fate deck has for us and how things turn as we continue on. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. And also, if you're looking for the campaign page link because you're interested in this one, you'll find it in the video description and pinned comment. Thanks again for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, and you'll be aware of when the finale lands. And as always, keep on rolling solo.